With NBA season over, you got one less thing to gamble on. So let's add in one more and hop into the world of DraftKings Best Ball. We're competing for $15 million in total prizes. $2 million to first place in a best ball tournament. Of course, if you're not familiar with best ball, very similar to NFL DFS, combined with some of your redraft leagues out there you might do with your office friends, your office enemies, your high school friends, high school enemies. I'll just assume that maybe you have a lot of people in your life you don't like. Either way, though, it's 20 rounds. Basically, you're playing for big prize money. That's the main things we're looking for here. And I am, in fact, picking in the one hole, picking in the very influential 101 in this DraftKings draft we're going to do today. And DraftKings, of course, you are getting a free ticket when you sign up and download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. Get your first $20 best ball lineup. That second draft is free for you. And this time this summer, again, it's a good time to get some entries in. Right now, no real NFL news going on besides your Aaron Rodgers bluster on the Pat McAfee show. He's apparently not going to come back. Seemed like nobody really wanted him in the league anyway, besides the Steelers, who just, I think, would have been perfectly happy to play Mason Rudolph as well and just hand the ball off 50 times a game. Instead, really, we're just going to talk about a lot of different things here, talk about structure. Of course, we're going to talk about our 3 rules of thumb as well for best ball, much like in DFS where you have your projections. You want to be aware of ADP here. That's basically the equivalent for what a projection would be on a normal DFS slate, where you have average draft position listed right here. Basically, that's where players get drafted. There's about a band of 12, 15 picks where players get drafted for the most part, but you want to try to soak up the value, draft players close to their ADPs when possible, not go reaching around for guys that are available at much later spots. We're going to take the guy who normally goes 101 here, Jamar Chase. Happy to get exposure in whenever I can. 14% on some other sites out there. Not sure I am on DraftKings right now for my Chase exposure. I think I've gotten a few less 101s, but I feel like I have to be a little above the field. Of course, field exposure is going to be about 8%. Something to keep in mind if you are putting in a bunch of entries on any of these sites. Second rule of thumb here. Of course, we like to talk about the 3 rules of thumb for best ball every video. Second rule of thumb is stacking and correlation. And like DFS, if you are hopping into DraftKings DFS on a weekly basis, and I assume if you're watching the Stochastic channel, you probably are a good amount. Same thing here for best ball. You stack your QB with your wide receivers, your tight ends. You want to get that correlation bump that comes for when a wide receiver hits the lineup, the QB is more likely to hit. You also in best ball can add RBs on top of that. Jaden Daniels with Brian Robinson was a pairing that worked pretty well for me last year. Eckler would have worked some weeks as well. And that's a situation where you have a running QB, a guy that's not necessarily getting value. And Brian Robinson, from the pass plays that Jaden Daniels was generating, Eckler was more so. But you still have, because that team was so much better because the Commanders beat out their projections so meaningfully, the rising tide of Jaden Daniels being good, the rising tide that affected Brian Robinson and his 3 red zone touches a game, it boosted him up too. So you can correlate more meaningfully here, but in general, you're looking for that QB wide receiver correlation, for a stack of at least QB +2, upwards of QB +4, depending on the team. Could even go higher, I guess. But probably diminishing returns at a certain point. And your third rule of thumb here, your expected value is realized in week 17. So on Twitter, you'll find a lot of people out there who don't understand gambling quite as well as a lot of you guys who play DFS. And if you try to learn best ball as best you can, you'll see a lot of things in gambling that I think, the concept of expected value being a big one. Week 17 is where expected value is realized. So much like you're placing a bet on OddsShopper, the bet's only paid off when a certain criteria is hit. For best ball, your advance rate matters a little bit. You win, your entry fee back on most sites, maybe a little bit more than that. The big payout comes if you make it to the finals, you make it to even the semifinals, but really you're trying to get to the finals there, and you could hit first place, you could hit 10th place, where on DraftKings, you're still winning $100,000. If you hit second place, you're still winning $1 million. Like, not that you're likely to do that, but the point is that if you have a team that's built and can make it to that 1,000 person final, give yourself a shot to actually win the big money. So that's really the main things I would say are the 3 rules of thumb: ADP, stacking, and correlation. Week 17 is where expected value is realized. And if you know those 3 things and stay disciplined, you'll do pretty well for yourself, I would think, as long as you're paying attention. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate all you guys joining in. CLN, you're all good. I do tip people off in the Discord, so you're cool to come in. The guy in the 6 hole, or 7 hole rather, I don't know why he's in every draft room. I don't know. He must know. He knows that I'm doing a stream, and he comes in when the stream time starts. Today did not make it very difficult, but unfortunately, that's going to happen. You get draft stalkers and do this for quote unquote living, is what I'll say. Shout out to the other chats as well. We got Jack. Appreciate him being in chats lately across here in my Splash Play channel, where I'm doing most of my hours of drafts in a given week. Just finished one of the main, had last pick, and went Nico. Brian, always take that. Sure. You never really want to always take a combo, especially if you are picking at the 12 hole. According to some of the best ball data tools out there, I've had my most drafts An underdogs lead tournament, Best Ball Mania, had the most picks in the 12 hole there. I haven't dug into my DraftKings data yet. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt to export. But basically, I'm picking the 12 hole a lot. I don't always take the same combo there because I do want to make sure to get different pairings. And that's really an important thing in best ball. If you are putting in, the max entries here, 150, like your traditional DFS tournaments, if you're putting in a 20 max tournament, all that, you want to get different looks in different spots. So I would try to keep that in mind throughout, even though you might love Nico, you might love Brian Thomas. It is literally not even July yet. One of those guys could tear an ACL. And that's like, Debbie Downer outlook, but this is best ball. If you're putting in a lot of entries, mix up your combos, no matter what time of the year you're drafting, but especially this time of year. Trust me, there's no worse feeling in the world when we have a player that gets injured in training camp, even a player that gets injured the first month of the year and you're highly exposed. It's happening multiple years. It sucks, but you just don't want to be overexposed too much to one particular combo. Jaden's the number one running option. Sure, I mean, you can make the case for Lamar as well. Obviously, Josh Allen, the ceiling is there too. And Jalen Hurts, Tush Push is still alive, so the ceiling is there for sure. Tebow's gained at least 30 pounds of fat. That is inaccurate. Dan Quinn made sure to point out how incredibly fast he's been. And can a fat guy be fast? I don't know. I mean, I used to work with Glenny Balls over at Barstool, and he had gotten hired as an intern because he ran a 40 at a relatively fast time, or at least visually fast for a guy who was kind of built like very round, but built like the Kool-Aid Man. I don't think you'd take offense to that. I like him as a human being, but he's built like the Kool-Aid Man. So maybe that happens. Who knows? What's happening in this draft is that I'm waiting at the 101. I don't know. McCaffrey came up a little bit. CeeDee Lamb fell as a result. London, this guy reached for him. Not really sure why. I like Drake London for sure. I have seen the Debo clips. I don't think he looks that much bigger than usual. Guys are also getting different degrees of shape throughout. Frankly, Debo last year had the best shape of his life. Hype. People were talking about how slender he looked, how he looked like the last time when he had the big outlier year a couple seasons ago. It didn't happen. He didn't have an outlier season. I think the big thing for Debo is that Jaden Daniels going to throw him the ball. Noah Brown, I think, is a perfectly fine player. I don't think he's any great shakes. But I do think Jaden Daniels feeding the ball made him a much more competitive DFS player week to week than you would think. Obviously, for Terry McLaurin, you can make the same case, even though I think Terry's always been pretty good. Certainly, the touchdown equity he had with Jaden at QB was big. Debo's going to take away all those easy kind of slant passes at the goal line that Terry McLaurin had that are not really the way you would normally use McLaurin. He played pretty well with it, but like a lot of check down stuff, a lot of horizontal stuff. There was an interview in where was it? There's Kingsbury talking about something basically and how they're working with, might have been The Athletic, but it could have been, it might have been MMQB actually with Albert Breer. So I want to make sure to attribute sources because keeping up with news is really one of the more important things you do in best ball. But they talked about basically this year, one of the focal points is that Jaden Daniels is a QB coach he's had since college that he works with in the offseason. They're trying to get the language more similar between what Cliff Kingsbury does and what they do when they're working on stuff. But also basically they were talking about like, the goal for this year for Kingsbury is to get the offense to reflect the best parts of what they had last year, which is not really rebuilding the ship, just trying to lean into stuff that worked. And that's a lot of horizontal stuff. They took deep shots, but really sets up well for Debo, even though, again, like I'm not Mr. Debo or anything. On the clock here for 2 straight picks, and we can wax poetic more about my beloved Commanders. A little bit of value on Ladd McConkey here. He's normally going pick 17. We're getting him at 24, so that's an easy click. Would like to leave this spot with an RB. I don't think we have to. Frankly, with the way the team is going, we could make the case to go elite QB, and no, we're not going to get Joe Burrow back most likely. But I'll go Chase Brown here. Obviously, we have the Cincinnati bet. T. Higgins didn't come back, so no temptation there. We got a better player, I think, ADP-wise, at least with Ladd McConkey. We get Chase Brown for more Bengals correlation. If Joe Burrow comes back, great. If he doesn't, we'll be fine. So I'm happy with this one. Let's see. Also, look at the entrance of the DK draft, so that sure doesn't help your incognito. Yes, that's... Oh, can you? I didn't know that. But oh well. It is what it is. Got to just deal with it as it goes here. But guys, appreciate all you watching live. Again, if you're watching on Stochastic today, whether it's live or after the fact, show some love, hit that like button if you can. It's always a battle against the YouTube algorithm. And in particular, DraftKings is a great site, doing a lot of great things this year. But it's always a battle for views. There's a lot of best ball content out there this time of year. So I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. East Coast time. That includes next week, actually going on vacation. But I'm going to bring the laptop with me because I've actually find that my vacation streams are fun, have a nice vibe. So you'll get to be a part of that here on Stochastic next week. Assuming StreamYard doesn't crash again like it did that one time. But otherwise, I'll be here again Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m., barring DraftKings going. This has been awful. I thought it's too much. This guy's not good, but no, I think we're doing okay. I'm happy getting the draft set on DraftKings. I feel like doing it every Tuesday and Thursday on stream gives me some kind of accountability to get the volume in, because it's important to draft across as many best ball sites as you can. And DraftKings this year with some of the deals they have going. Obviously, the free entry we talked about up top, it's the biggest push that you have on DraftKings, that when you put in your first draft, you get another free draft for free. But also, they've had some happy hour deals. They're giving away DFS tickets if you get a few best ball entries in at certain times a day. A lot of like flash stuff that are doing to try to get you guys in to get more free stuff. Which I think is nice. I think they're supporting best ball more this year. So shout out to DraftKings, number one, putting on the show. But number two, for you guys out there, I think it's important to get some bang for your buck. And some sites out there do that. Some sites don't. It's important to get some kind of, let's even rake back, but just some sort of give back, I think. DFS tickets, even if they're for WNBA, big WNBA tournament, I think, today for like 25K or some shit. Pretty crazy. Jane's gained 15 pounds of muscle. I feel like you always give these troll chats go F yourself, starting from the username on down. So I don't know how serious we're being here. I would like to believe you. I feel like I would like to believe I've earned your trust, and, that you don't want to lie to me. But let us never forget the fake starting lineups you gave for a while. Go F yourself. Gotta have a more credible name too. If you're gonna report for me, if you're one of my on-field, on-site reporters. I believe in muscle. True. He's just bulking. He's bulking like Mac and It's Always Sunny, and not current Mac and It's Always Sunny, where he looks incredibly creepy and wax-like. Trying too hard to be Ryan Reynolds is the current Rob McElhenney. Even though enjoy his content, even Mythic Quest, but boy, that guy does not look like Mac anymore. I look more like Mac. More fat Mac, perhaps, but still. Other jokes you can make that I won't make on stream when I'm alone. If Eric Lindquist were here, he'd be making them left and right, but no. It's just me. You're going to play close to the vest. Team 3 is shaping up something good. Is that you? Is that why you're saying that? Team 3 looks okay. What did he do that's special? He reached for 2 players. He reached for Higgins. I mean, Higgins right at EP, but whatever. Reached for Kyron. You get Kyron over here. And not that he was going to get Kyron all the way back at 46. But if that's you, more power to you, Andrew. But if that's not you, that's a perfectly fine team. It's nothing special. Really, I mean, I think the room so far pretty flat, besides the one guy, really a couple guys reaching a little bit ahead of ADP to get some guys. Drake London to pick 8. I like Drake London. I think it's hard to make the case for him ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, ahead of Puka, ahead of Nico, ahead of Neighbors, especially. But yeah, for how it is right now for Drake London, I've said it a few times on here. I do think even if you want Drake London more, reaching for him right now is not the move. Do that when you're filling out entries 100 to 150, ideally in August. Drafting in a barbell method is what a lot of people recommend, where you're drafting more early when the tournament opens, more when the tournament's about to close, because that's when you have the most information. You can make picks that have more value later on in a draft and the beginning of a draft. But, I like Drake London enough. You can go there, but that's kind of a crazy ADP when sometimes Drake London, I think the best ADP I've gotten for him was around here, pick 19, 18. Hard to take a guy at pick 8 like that. You meant team 4. Yeah, look, the Bijan Bucky start, one of my faves. Saquon Bucky, also a fun start. Those guys both have week 9 buys, so this make it a little bit tougher to feel perfectly fine about going thin at the RB room. But Bijan and Bucky, young guys, both had great years early in their careers. I think they're signs really that that could get better this year. Just another year of Penix starting, blossoming into that role. Definitely a part of it. So we have a pretty big bet on Burrow. A lot of people will suggest to push it all the way back around. The other drafter here does not have a QB, so he's probably going to take Burrow if I kicked him around. I'm going to go Burrow because we have the Chase Brown bet as well as the Higgins bet, so we are stacking pretty directly. And frankly, even though it's not really a tiebreaker, Chase Brown has catch a lot of passes, did get actually decent red zone targets last year as well, so I think we should go that way. We have this bet on the Chargers as well. Marion Hampton, not really a value. I would like to go receiver here because I do think there's a little bit of a tier break for some of these guys, but I'll try Hampton out. He is one of my preferred rookie RBs in terms of the data that I swear by the most. Sports Info Solutions, a great site out there that has provided me access to EPA data since I was at Football Outsiders running things a few years ago. Really, one of the things that's most important for me, you'll hear me cite expected points added metrics a lot for football in general throughout the course of a year, doing content both on my Splash Play channels whenever I do stuff for Stochastic as well. But basically in college, Marion Hampton, High EPA player, which means an efficient player. High avoided tackle rate player, which means he's shifty enough despite being a big dude. He's good in the pass game too, commanded targets at a pretty high level. Actually, let me see if I could pull up some direct numbers here because I keep them all on a Google sheet. Sometimes you got to pull numbers out on people. You guys know here on Stochastic in particular, it is a numbers company. So let's see. Let me make sure. Let me make sure the board's lined up as well. All right, back to over here. Not on wide receivers. We want RBs. All right, so Marion Hampton last year, keeping in mind that he did play at UNC, so played some level of legit competition. 27 opportunities a game, 26.6 of which he actually turned into a touch. So opportunities being targets plus run plays, obviously. 0.1 EPA per rush is pretty good for a guy at that level of volume. 26.3% avoided tackle rate would be lower than Ashton Genty, but appreciably higher than Quinshon Judkins at 15.5. Travion Henderson, people bill him as a shifty guy. They bill him as Jahmyr Gibbs. He wasn't Jahmyr Gibbs in college, really. A 20% avoided tackle rate for him last year. Cam Scadaboo, also be a guy who's ahead of Hampton at 31%, but not really big leaps ahead, really. For Hampton as well, he got 18 routes a game, 0.36 EPA per target there. Only a 20% target per out run, so he wasn't commanding a ton of volume. But when he got the routes, he was out there. He's got a big enough body to be able to stand in to be a blocker. I think the big thing for Hampton is that I think this price tag's kind of lofty to me because you have Najee Harris coming in there. Najee Harris, even though people like to make fun of him, and I'm certainly among them, he's really one of those classic decimal backs that our pals Lofty and Ben Rassa talk about, where he's not adding a ton of volume in the pass game. He still was fairly shifty as a runner last year, still broke some explosive plays, still had decent red zone work. I think that's really the big issue I have for Hampton is that I think Hampton himself is a great prospect. And if he went to somewhere kind of like an Ashton Genty where they're paying good draft capital and there isn't a real threatening back behind you, more of a mentor back kind of guy, I think that's where Hampton would appeal to me more. But this price tag, like he should go closer to your RJ Harveys, in my opinion. He should go closer to Caleb Johnson. Like he's more talented than those guys, I think, by a pretty good margin by my data's standards. But still a guy that I think is a little bit overvalued for the fact that to start the year and probably to end the year, you're going to get Najee Harris getting 8 touches a game, 8 to 12, I think would not be it. Chargers certainly would love to run if they can, but I don't know. I think that's my big issue with Hampton. And really at his ADP is the bigger thing. Like any player you could take at a certain price. If Hampton's going at 70, great. At pick 49, I don't feel like he's a fantastic RB2. So that's my big issue with him. But it's one of those things in best ball where it's like, that's my big issue with him. And I think he's really talented. But everybody's relative to a price. And you're taking Hampton over Chuba Hubbard, who people certainly liked last year. Alvin Kamara, I think it's really a tougher click where, I mean, on a projection level, Kamara's got to project substantially better than Hampton. I would think Kenneth Walker, even with his injury stuff, projects better than Hampton. Joe Mixon here at 64, he's got to project better. Swift, I think we're pretty close there. And that's my issue with rookies overall. I've made the case in a lot of my splash play streams in particular. But for you guys on Stochastic, I haven't heard it before. I think rookies were really overvalued this year. People got really talked into the idea of this being a generational rookie class. In reality, you had a couple top prospects like Genty, like Hampton, second-tier guys like Judkins, like Travion Henderson, I would say, like Caleb Johnson to a lesser extent. Those guys are all pretty good. They might have an 8-year career as a running back. Wouldn't shock me. But I think them being ready to play year one, ready to be great year one, ready to steal roles from even guys like Najee Harris year one. Not sold that's the case. So that's where I stand with the rookies this year. And I love rookies. I've made the most money in best ball off of guys like Bucky Irving last year. Tyler Algier a couple years ago was a fantastic rookie back to the point that I didn't think they were going to take Bijan. And then lo and behold, Atlanta did. We're on the clock here. We got 2 picks back to back once again. We've got 2 RBs, 2 receivers, so we do want to make it up a little bit more at receiver if we can. Chris Olave is still a guy I'm pretty comfortable taking at this point. Obviously, a player that concussion stuff maybe spooks some people off. I think that's part of his ADP being lower. But certainly Kellen Moore coming in here, guiding this offense, I think it makes sense. And this is a really big value on Sam Laporta. I don't think we need the elite tight end here necessarily. We're picking up pick 73, though. He's got a 62.4 ADP, and he is, in my opinion, your last elite tight end. You can make the case that he's closer to the Kelsey tier, the Hawkinson, Mark Andrews tier, and I guess I wouldn't be mad at you for it. But he's young enough that he could get better. New offensive coordinator maybe gives him a second sign of shot at life there. So that'd be my hope for Sam Laporta. Let's give the team a read because We got a long time between picks here. We got Joe Burrow. It's always tough. I'm picking at the back half of the round at the beginning. I have to fill the entire time in between. So hopefully you guys enjoy the millions of takes you'll hear from me filling dead air. We got Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion Hampton, a receiver, Jamar Chase, double chases from the Bengals, Lad McConkey, Chris Olave, Sam Laporta here. So we've got, starting spots filled out. Going to add some flex on top of that. Ideally, you want to not go too early for QB2 here, but certainly think getting a Justin Herbert would be nice. Getting Goff for Laporta would be a nice thing to do based on how the team looks right now. Definitely want to get more projectable RBs in because I do think Hampton, even if he is a great player, if he gets there by end of year, I think the beginning of the year could be a slow start with Najee Harris there. So that'd be my concern. I would wait for Evan Ingram. Think he's a good sleeper pick because Sean Payton he's not a sleeper pick at this point. His price tag has come up a good amount. I think he's moved up to like a top 100 ADP generally across the industry. Not sure if he's gotten up quite as high on DraftKings. Yeah, he's up 96.2 on DraftKings right now. For Evan Ingram, I think he's an okay click. I think Bo Nix, I was one of very few people out there last year who was in on Bo Nix from pre-NFL draft, thought he'd be a first-round pick. Took a lot of him in pretty much every format pre-draft and worked out pretty well for me. So I was happy with the results. But I do think for Denver, Ingram is a fine click. I don't know why people are getting more excited about him. When you have pretty legit target competition there, you have a team still that wants to run the ball, and now they've brought in two new assets that should commit to them getting a certain amount of touches with RJ Harvey and with J.K. Dobbins. And they've still talked about wanting to get estimated the ball. They keep loving Jaleel McLaughlin. I'm not sure the ceiling for Ingram is crazy high. For pod format best ball as opposed to total points best ball, I think Ingram is still a guy who could spike for you when you need it in the playoffs. So I'm cool with it. But I don't know, he shouldn't move up. Johnny Smith went 82 in this room. It's not been the case in a while. Ingram was going 80. What is going on in this room? This is a really reachy room. So again, Ingram at 85, Laporta at a 12 pick discount. I would in my opinion, this is just like the rules on the best ball, whether Ingram scores more points here than Laporta or not. Laporta at a 12 pick discount, Ingram 11 spots ahead of ADP. You take the guy at a 12 pick discount. I think, I get this guy reaching for Nix and Ingram. This guy too, the issue, and he wasn't going to get to pick these guys most likely at 108, 109 at this point in the draft. There was a point in DraftKings drafts where you could get Bo Nix. Bo Nix falls in rooms to get him out. Maybe get Bo Nix at 108, Ingram at 109 would be a possibility. Whenever you reach for a combo like this, you run the risk of pairing yourself with people that got a better version of that combo, which can be death in a fairly big last round tournament on DraftKings, where for you guys who play DFS on a week-to-week basis, it's not the Millie Maker week to week in terms of the size, not the play action. You're only competing against 1,000 people. But for a best ball final competing against 1,000 people, there's a decent shot that you find that combo, especially if Bo Nix and Evan Ingram were the guys you need throughout the playoffs. You could find that combo that somebody got much cheaper and they're going against you, and they have, instead of reaching for it, they have a Brian Robinson on top of it. They have a Ricky Pearsall. They have whatever guys in this range you like. That's where reaching can hurt you a good amount, especially for reaching at two spots in a row. I don't know. I don't think that guy handled that the best, but I get people being enthusiastic for Ingram. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't get why he's coming up to be his price is totally fair in the 110 range. He's with a bunch of guys who I think were peers, and now he's coming up to Kelsey in this room. He goes ahead of Kelsey in this room. I'm not sold on that. A lot of mouths to feed in Denver. Yeah, a lot of mouths to feed in Denver, and I don't think an offense that wants to put up 50 points a game would be the other part of it. But I think that's part that people miss sometimes. It is still, and again, you guys are stochastic watchers, probably users as well. You should be really in tune with projections a little bit more and being mindful of the fact that, does this pass a sniff test? What do you think Denver's projections are? If you see them on stochastic in week 17 this year, what would they look like? I would guess it's probably not Evan Ingram projecting for 18 points. There's a shot it could be Travis Kelce projecting for 18 points. Probably not at this stage of his career, but it's possible. We got two picks coming up here. Darnell Mooney, one of my favorite clicks at this point. I think he bails out receiver rooms at a really high level as your wide receiver 4. If you really need it, wide receiver 3, but hopefully he'd be your 4. But we got, all right, Jalen Warren goes. He might have been a nice room for the RBs. Would like to leave with one RB, one wide receiver, I think. Josh Downs, people like a lot. I think he's going to have some problems with Tyler Warren on that team. A lot of hype for Tyler Warren and how many targets he's been getting. But that said, PPR for Josh Downs. He was a great target earner last year. And Daniel Jones should be a better version of whatever they're going to have at QB. And RB a little bit thin for me. Kind of think taking Goff here might be the move. But we have this Chargers bet. Feels like a Herbert team, and I think we can get Herbert the next pick. I'll go Tyrone Tracy. I feel like this is a decent swing here. I've got enough Cam Scattaboo across all the best ball sites. For Tyrone Tracy, he's a player that I think people probably like a little bit more because they had him in redraft. They saw some fantasy football touts out there, content creators out there saying Tyrone Tracy's a great click and whatever. He kind of just played like a dude based on my numbers. Tyrone Tracy, negative 0.1 EPA per rush, negative 0.06 EPA per pass. That's fine at volume, but you got to do something else special. 16% avoided tackle rate is towards the okay end of players. You're talking about ahead of your Joe Mixons, ahead of your Saquons, your guys getting a ton of volume who aren't super elusive, but not great enough to hold on to a job and, hold off Cam Scattaboo, who, as we talked about, had kind of elite college numbers. So that's my issue with Tyrone Tracy. The red zone worked too last year. 1.3 red zone rushes a game doesn't show some massive amount of trust. And you're adding Scattaboo in, who is kind of a sledgehammer back, even though he can be elusive. Really, that's my case for it against Tracy is that he did spike pretty huge last year, getting really big volume. But also he wasn't as special as people think. So I take Scattaboo, I take Tracy. I've taken them both together on teams. I think they're still viable clicks because the offense should be better. But I think anybody's going to say that one's significantly better than the other or significantly better positioned to be the starter week one and to hold that job and be the lead back. I'm not buying that. I think they're going to ping pong back and forth. Team so far is a 1-3-4-1 build. So a little bit lighter at receiver than we'd want, but I think it's okay because we got Jamar Chase. So Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion, Hampton. I think Hampton's the one click here where we could have gotten better late RBs and felt okay about it. But I've given my kind of about the Hampton spot right now. Jamar Chase, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey, really nice value. Chris Olave, Sam Laporta, really nice value. Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy. I think the team is coming along well. We got to get a little more in at receiver. And I think Hampton is just one of those sliding doors moments where maybe it could have been a little bit better. That's okay. Got so much time for this click. How many is too many to stack on a team? It depends on the team. Like a couple of years ago, think about Kenny Pickett and that Steelers team where it's like people were taking, Freiermuth, they're taking Pickens, they're taking Deontay Johnson. You're not likely to get enough production from all three of those guys to really justify the existence there. So you end up getting Pickens in your stack. That's probably enough. And this is like a real loose example, but it's the first one that came to mind. As opposed to a team like, last year you have Cincinnati where you have the weekly stacks with Chase and Higgins. Typically one of them's going to go off. You can put Chase Brown in there. He was going off enough. You put Gesicki in there at his price tag. He was going off pretty well. So that's a four-man stack that could have hit. If you had Yoshivas on there, it probably didn't kill you, even though it didn't help. If you had Jermaine Burton on there, probably didn't kill you. Absolutely didn't help. But you could justify having a QB +5 there. Like that's sort of the difference is like, is the team going to score a lot of points? Is there a reason to think that they will? And for the Bengals case, explosive offense plus dog shit defense. And for this year, guys, defense is only getting worse on paper at the very least. I think that you're in a good situation to just try to add a few more pieces on for that kind of team. And especially too for the playoff pod sites like DraftKings, like Underdog as well. You're talking about like a lot of people might advance because they had Chase and Higgins or they had one of Chase and Higgins. What if it's Yoshivas that spikes in week 17? What if it's Gesicki that spikes in week 17? If you have that guy on top, that actually might be something that wins you a lot of money, even if that guy doesn't do a whole lot to get you through the regular season. So it's all relative is the main thing, like many things in best ball. But you can go QB +4. I think that wouldn't be crazy. QB +5, depending on the team. But it shouldn't all be receivers, though. And definitely the draft capital going early, can be a lot. You're asking a lot if you take like Chase and Higgins together. You're asking a lot for that Cincinnati stack over the course of a year. But they just did it last year, so why not? QB +5 this year, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, Detroit only. Those are a good 3. Niners, I would say, would be another I'd consider. Baltimore, if you can get that. Really, any of the ones that we expect to be top scoring teams putting up 30 to 35 a week. Washington, in certain situations, I think actually, if you can get all Washington, I think you tip both RBs plus Ertz and McLaurin and Debo. I think that would work. All right, we got Charbonnet, we got Justin Herbert here. Let's make Herbert one of the clicks so we can get that out of the way now. Both guys, different buys, so probably just a 2 QB build here, even though we'll have the luxury to go to 3. Not a great receiver pocket here, but we'll get a week 17 bring back for our Charger stack. We'll go reach up for Christian Kirk. Marvin Mims, I like probably more than most people. Charbonnet, I don't mind. Just don't think we really need the RB at this point. Really wanted to get the fifth receiver in. So a 2-3-5-1 build right now. Joe Burrow, and this is a nice team, I think. The Omarion Hampton part, I really feel like is the one thing that could have been punched up a level further. But Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion Hampton, Jamar Chase, Ladd McConkey, really happy with that value there, because there won't be a lot of, unless McConkey gets hurt or something, or he starts to fall meaningfully, won't be a lot of McConkey with the Bengals stack, I don't think. Chris Olave, Sam Laporta, Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy, Justin Herbert, Christian Kirk. So functionally done at QB, need to get some volume in at RB, still need to add some more. I mean, really every position needs some more. Welcome to best ball. But I'd like to see him. I would say, in my opinion, this is probably one of the better, especially if Hampton can go pretty close to week 1 and have a roll. And I think he'll have a roll. I just don't know if he's going to have a goal line roll. I think his team pops a little bit more, but we got to hit RB 4, 5, 6 pretty well. So we'll see. BBM 5 winner had Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Burton. Oh, there we go. Oh, Chase and Chase Brown. So there we go. I've forgotten that, but that's a good point. Yeah, so you're talking about having a pretty meaningful stack there. And Burton, even though he didn't add any value, you never know in terms of an outcome and best ball. Best ball, much like your Marvel movies, it's a multiverse out there in terms of the outcomes you can hit. And there's certainly some world, I'm sure, where a Higgins-Burton combo could have won money. And a guy could have had Gesicki on top of that, too, and he probably would have spiked enough throughout the year as well to help out a little bit. More like a 3 tight end build. Forgot SF. Baltimore was interesting. Prob 2 RB or 2 tight end for Baltimore. I mean, for me, I was thinking Zay Flowers, Bateman, Henry. At least one of the tight ends, maybe both. Hopkins is cheap enough. Justice Hill's cheap enough to add on top of that. Do you think the Jags can be sneaky good this year if healthy, or defense and RB situation going to keep them from being good? I believe a lot in Liam Cohen. He was a guy, again, last year, and it's important to be candid about the process, I think, if you're a best ball creator, because things you got right last year, things you got wrong last year, should be informative of how you approach things the following year. Doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater if something went wrong. For me last year, Marshawn Lloyd getting hurt and just being re-hurt and then being re-hurt again with an appendix bursting. One of the worst runouts possible to my highest exposed guys. But it was an important lesson to Commanders secondary receivers besides Terry McLaurin, not diversifying there. While I still got the Commanders bet right, going heavy on Jaden Daniels, heavy on McLaurin. I could have made the bet better by taking other guys. You should learn stuff like year to year about how to improve things. So Liam Cohen, with what he did with Tampa Bay last year, I didn't think he was anything special coming out of Kentucky, like looking at the numbers and all that. But he is a guy which I think informed that you come from that Rams tree, you come from good coaches, you end up figuring out ways to be productive. In particular for him, with what he did for Tampa Bay, I see exact parallels what he could do for Jacksonville in terms of, not exactly that Brian Thomas is going to be Mike Evans, but using him similarly. Some Godwin routes there for sure. Travis Hunter, should he playing mostly outside, I would think, but he's another player as well. Getting those Mike Evans kind of routes can be good for him. Tight end wasn't really well used in Tampa Bay last year, but Brenton Strange, I think, is a good target earner and is a pretty good athlete as well coming out of Penn State. So a lot of these guys, I think they work well. The RBs is pretty ambiguous. People love Bashal Tootin. It's flipped now enough. I've been taking ATN above Tootin the entire time. I've been taking Tank Bigsby a decent amount too, because he showed enough last year with about a 20% avoided tackle rate and decent goal line work that he could be something special. But for these teams where they're coming in, it's an entire overhaul. I think you want to take your stand and be ambiguous about it, or be diversified about it, where like get some Tootin, get some ATN, get some Bigsby. But I'm definitely doing that a lot. I think the offense can be good this year. I think Lawrence has the best shot at being good that he's had. And I'm really, a lot of the components of Jacksonville I was down on. Like, never been an ATN guy. Bigsby hated coming out of college, kind of talked myself into him a little bit over the course of last year. But Brian Thomas I loved. So that's really the one thing. But I think they'll be good. I think Liam Cohen showed that he could turn chicken shit into chicken salad kind of thing. Pretty big value on CJ Stroud, but I don't think we have enough of a correlation to grab him here and deviate from a plan. I think we want Rachaad White here. Rachaad White still getting third down work for Tampa Bay, and being a part of the previous Liam Cohen offense, being a valuable part of that, I think works. Quentin Johnston, I know is not very exciting to a lot of people, but he is a valid wide receiver starting right now for the Chargers, even though Trey Harris should be breathing down his neck over the course of training camp. We'll see how that goes. Quentin Johnston will be in the mix no matter what. So I think at this point, when we have the Herbert stack, I feel okay with taking him. So we got Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion Hampton, Jamar Chase, Lad McConkey, Chris Olave, Sam Laporta, Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy, Justin Herbert, Christian Kirk, Rashad White, Quentin Johnston. Need to add some more at receiver. And yeah, need some more at RB. Still need more at tight end. But I like how this is coming along. I think this team is nicely balanced here. And really, I've talked about it a few times, talk about it more so on my Splash Play channel. Being balanced, I think, is really your biggest thing in best ball this year. There are a few spots on the board I think you can peel off 0 RB and feel okay about it. The middle of the board, I think, works. Front, maybe not as much. I think really this area here from pick 5 to pick 8, pretty decent run to be able to do 0 RB. Back half, I think you want to be balanced, especially in the 12 hole, the 11 hole, and the 1 hole, the 2 hole. I think the same thing, that you can go more RB heavy in the beginning parts of a draft. But really, to me, being balanced is like the most important part of what I've been trying to do better this year because, like a lot of people out there who, especially have done content in best ball the last few years, I love 0 RB teams. They're the most fun to click. It's fun to have, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, like whatever, like a bunch of star players, one of the Eagles guys, all on one team. It's really fun. But with how RB has gotten much more appropriately priced in general this year, the guys who are up top are much more solid plays than some of the ones you'd get in previous years of best ball and redraft. I think it's much more beneficial for you to be balanced. Still skimming a little bit more towards receiver if you can in terms of volume, or you're getting the one really early one in who's going to be good. But being mindful to have enough RBs. Like there are teams I look at this year and I'm like, this looks like something I would have built last year, and I don't think it's going to be enough to win in the current landscape. That'd be one of my biggest takeaways for you guys that are out there and trying to wrap your head around, just getting better at best ball incrementally. That's also the kind of rants we have to do to fill an hour stream, But shout out to all you guys hanging out. Please do hit that like button. Please subscribe here. Show Stochastic, the best balls, a nice addition to their DFS forward efforts here. And of course, download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup. And it's a shot for $15 million. It's really the biggest thing on there. One of the biggest prize pools in the space. When you get that first shot in, you get another free entry right away. So that's a good way to do that. Get 2 shots right away for a share of $15 million. And that's 2 chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. So not that you're going to win $2 million at your office league, but you got to fucking do that lineup every week. Here on DraftKings, you get your 1 entry in, you're good to go. And it's fun to draft on. I think there's a lot of EV as well, and play action's a nice tournament too. The DraftKings Millie Maker, that's the one where we want the biggest prizes. But check it out. It's a good site to play on this year. And again, the effort for the happy hour tickets, pay attention on your app, pay attention to your email, because they've been coming up a lot. And honestly, I don't even know if you get an email every time. But when I open the app to put in my daily NBA lineups, now that's done, MLB lineups too, you'll see sometimes like, happy hour deal, get in 3 drafts during this 5-hour window today, and you get a $15 ticket, I think was what they did the other day. We're doing some fun stuff as a give back for you guys that are putting in a lot of entries. So do recommend checking it out. And they have some volume-based stuff as well. I think you get, I don't want to misquote, you get like a pretty good amount of rake back if you max out the tournament. I think they emailed about that recently. They've not given it to me as ad copy, but here in DraftKings best ball, my pick's not up yet. Yeah, if you max out the DK Millie Maker, you get $300 DK dollars. You put in 25 entries, you get $25. 50 entries, you get $70. So again, nice deals going on DraftKings. In my opinion, some of the better ones in the industry right now. So check it out if you want to play some best ball. All right, we got a 2-4-6-1 here. Need something at RB, I think. Not crazy about the spot. I do want to get a second tight end here. Gesicki pairing with Burrow, I think just feels like an easy click right now. Certainly passing up some guys like Pitts, like Strange, a little bit ahead of him in ADP, but the correlation will be the thing for us here. Jalen Wright, Nick Chubb gives another Houston opponent for week 17, or Chargers opponent in Houston. I'll go Nick Chubb here. Jalen Wright certainly has a contingent outcome that could be good. But with Ollie Gordon being added to the mix there, I don't know if we're guaranteed that Jalen Wright's the true backup. I'd take him sometimes if I have a Tampa Bay stack, because they're a week 17 bring back for Tampa Bay, but not going to go Jalen Wright here. I'll go the aged Nick Chubb. So had to go RB for one of those picks no matter what to get some volume in. The team so far is a 2-5-6-2. So we got Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion Hampton, Jamar Chase, Lad McConkey, Chris Olave, Sam Laporta, Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy, Justin Herbert, Christian Kirk, part of our Chargers Houston week 17 game stack. Rashad White, Quentin Johnston, Mike Gesicki, Nick Chubb. No Arizona parts for Cincinnati, no bringbacks on that front. So that's maybe one thing I failed at a little bit. We're trying to build a perfectly balanced team. But still happy with the team for the most part. Should be well equipped to survive. Nice charter stack. Yeah. If we got Trey Harris, I think it would still be nice. I just wish Trey Harris was a little bit cheaper. Where'd he go in this room? You pick 109 here. I feel like Trey Harris and Higgins both a little bit expensive for me. Higgins, though, at least is guaranteed a starting job. There's nobody ahead of Higgins, and Higgins got his guaranteed money as well. Like Higgins is going to be out there being the secondary boundary receiver behind Nico. And Nico will move in the slot sometimes, and Higgins will be the one out there running those Xavier Hutchinson routes that happen sometimes. So like Higgins, I think should go ahead of Harris. I like Harris a lot. I thought he was a beast at Ole Miss. He and Jackson Dart. To me, based on, the numbers I look at, the EPA stuff, especially special players. Like Trey Harris had a really high target per route run rate, was really efficient while doing it, had to get ADOT as well, was good enough after the catch. I think Trey Harris is a good player, but Quentin Johnston, even though we as casual observers of things go like, another drop pass, Quentin Johnston, you idiot. Like he was awful down the stretch of the season at times. The team still trusts him enough, and they've declared him the starter. I don't think they should be flipped necessarily. I don't think Quentin Johnston should go top 100, but Quentin Johnston shouldn't be going at 150 when Trey Harris goes at like 105, 110. That's just one of those mispriced things that I think, you can make your stands. Rookie's always exciting, but it's been a big growth process for me to I love Trey Harris, but he's not the right price. Don't go crazy on him. So I've been trying to be more mindful of in my process. Sounds like I'm doing inside the actor studio, but you get the idea. CJ McCollum just traded for Jordan Peele. Oh my God. What is New Orleans doing? That's an awful trade. I didn't love the Simons Drew Holiday one. I guess that was more about cost control because Drew Holiday, I think, has to be re-signed at some point coming up the next year or so. That one I didn't get either, but McCollum for Peele, or Poole rather. Why'd you say Jordan Peele? Jordan Poole. You got me saying Jordan Peele. I don't think he got traded for the director of many great horror movies. You had Jordan Poole on that New Orleans team that needs culture is probably not the move. We got Michael Wilson here. Michael Wilson, a player that was out on the field a lot for Arizona last year. Didn't do a lot with it, but he is a very viable click. At this point, we have a Cincinnati stack. We are looking for some more correlation. And I would like to get my sixth RB here, and I do think there's a tier break for the free RBs here with Marshawn Lloyd. So Marshawn Lloyd, again, the guy who buried me last year, he's going to bury me again this year. He's going to have the ability to bury me this year, but I don't think he will. He's healthy, a lot of good coach speak. He basically didn't leave Green Bay in the offseason, did some stuff to get himself healthier as well, to build the balance in his legs better. It was the same thing that Christian Watson did with his injuries, and then he tore his ACL, so I don't know how that's going to go. The Christian Watson's apparently out there running and cutting, I don't even know how that's possible. The Marshawn Lloyd, I love him as a click, still around 17. I think he's one of the better clicks you have because Green Bay wants a lightning to the thunder that is Josh Jacobs. And they really want somebody to take some workload away from Jacobs, I think. Lloyd's got a ton of juice, high avoided tackle rate guy, very efficient player. Built like a bowling ball, too. Has a build to be a 3-down back if it came to that. Marshawn Lloyd, I think, last year would have paid off because we saw guys like Chris Brooks and whoever, Emmanuel Wilson, pay off enough as RB2 for Green Bay. I think Lloyd pays off this year, but after it fucked me last year, that's how it is. Key and Peele, great. Yeah, Jordan Peele, the Pelicans' new star player. He's taking time away from directing. He's going to have to get in a lot better shape, though. He's built like old Luka, not current Luka. Is it okay to reach if you're at the 12th pick knowing your player won't come back to you next time around? You can, but you're better off, especially if you're putting in a bunch of drafts. I've said it before, like if you're going to do the DFS analogy, it's like leaving $5,000 in salary on the table for like a main slate thing. You're not normally going to do that. You don't want to do that too often, but if you're putting in 150 entries, that might be a way to get different. That might be a thing that's logical to do. If it's your QB and like your QB, you're picking here, let's say your QB normally goes here, you got no chance of him coming all the way back around. I could see you reaching for that, but for the most part, you want to just let the different draft spots make you different as opposed to just building the same team over and over again from different spots because people will do that. And I think that's not the best way to do it. Thank you for the info. Had Chase, Higgins, and Burrow. Didn't know if I should grab the tight end. Yeah, I mean, look, you don't have to do it every single time out. And the goal really would be to do it different ways sometimes where you take one time Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Gesicki. One time you're taking Burrow, Chase Brown, Gesicki. One time you're taking Burrow, Chase Brown, Higgins, Yoshivas, let's say. You want to have different combos. Like that's sort of the goal here. It's like, I don't know. If you had a shot to give yourself the winning lottery ticket and do different number, like would you pick the same numbers over and over again, or would you try to have different numbers? You try to have different numbers. But the DFS part of it should really be what rings true for people. Like, just don't do the same thing over and over again. Like that's really, I think, from casual people, and not even casual people, like people who I would say are sharp in gambling. They have this instinct to like try to build a team that's like, oh, these are the guys I think are going to be good over and over and over again. So just keep drafting the same team. And that's like one of the worst things to do in best ball. Let the board come to you is a really lame way to say that. But you do kind of want to let the board come to you. Let the uniqueness come from getting Ladd McConkey at a pick as opposed to reaching for some guy. Especially now too, because you have an injury and like then you're just boned. The injuries are a big part that like somebody's in July is going to get seriously hurt that nobody saw coming. And it's going to be one of those things where like a lot of people are going to be left holding the bag and not know what to do with it. It's like this happens every year. You have to be prepared accordingly. And emotionally, really. All right. 2672. We can do anything at this point. The world's our oyster. I'm going to go Theo Johnson. No correlation here, but think he's a nice third tight end to add on. Young guy, freak athlete, all that stuff. Any late Arizona? Any late? Trying to think if there's any late correlation I can do here. Houston, we got really. Tank Dell is never going to be back. I mean, he'll be back at some point, but not this year. I'm going to go Keaton Mitchell. I don't think we need this RB, the 7th RB at this point. Keaton Mitchell getting some camp steam. I take a lot of Justice Hill, so I want to be mindful of an ambiguous backfield. Spurious News got there ahead of me. Yeah, Keaton Mitchell, I think nice coach speak about him. I think he'll get himself some scheme touches this year. Still think it's safely going to be Justice Hill playing third downs, playing the high leverage third and long situations. Derrick Henry is still taking all the Derrick Henry work we expect, I think would be the case too. But Mitchell getting some of those scat back gimmicky touches, maybe being more inclined to break one. That he's a little bit further removed from his ACL knee injury tear. That was a childlike way to say that. His ACL tear, I think was what it was, whatever the knee injury was. Hope for Keaton Mitchell is that he could be back to being that explosive guy. But I still think Justice Hill is the more projectable, better bet. And it's priced accordingly now with Hill going in this room, 191. Keaton Mitchell, me going to him, or him going to me at 217. So we're okay. But the last pick, I'm thinking receiver, because I think we've now loaded up more than enough at RB. I don't want to give away anybody I'm leaning towards here, but I'll just kind of talk in general about guys here. Tolbert, your case for him is that he's now your probable wide receiver 3. He won't get schemed the fun touches like Kevontae Turpin might from time to time. Pickens really cuts into his upside, though. Like he already wasn't good last year when Cooks was out for most of the year, and he was your wide receiver 2. So it's hard to really love him as wide receiver 3 unstacked. Wicks, I think, still has utility. Tank Dell, again, don't think he'll play this year, but people will still draft him because they know the name. Jalen Royals, most likely going to be playing behind Rashee Rice. I think Royals' best possible outcome was if Rashee Rice was banged up and couldn't go. But it looks like he's going to be full go come training camp, and the suspension stuff is now completely gone for Rashee Rice, at least for this year. So Jalen Royals, I think, loses some utility, especially, unless you have him stacked up. Isaac Tesla, wide receiver 3 for Detroit. He's gone. John Mechie, probably not going to be on the Houston roster. Wouldn't take him. Tez Johnson has some advanced analytics that are favorable, but on Tampa Bay, he's going to be so buried. I think Ibuka's going to have a hard time getting on the field. I don't know how Tez Johnson would. Hunter Renfrow might make the roster, might not. Horn will make the roster, but I don't think he's very good. Amari Cooper, I would take Keenan Allen over him if you are doing the guys who are unemployed Olympics right now. Juju, probably not for me. Roman Wilson, clickable. Mingo, dead. Corley, the new regime, doesn't seem to like him. Devon Vele, clickable. Jake Bobo, not really clickable. I would take MVS over him if you could. It's ugly. It's ugly for late receiver. Things move around. Players will come a little bit more appealing, but you're losing some of the guys that were nice late clicks before. Your Darius Slaytons are gone. Even your Dante Thorntons are now gone. The people know he'll be likely playing your starting outside receiver whenever Trey Tucker is not out there. Yeah, tough spot. But let's see. 3 more picks. If you have any questions, drop them in chat as well. Happy to take a few to round out the stream here. If not, we'll just do some plugs, call it a day. And of course, MLB Live Before Lock coming up later today, so stay tuned for that. And that's it. I don't think there's any more. I didn't check the schedule, but I presume that's it, right? I'll confirm. Today's Tuesday. You got me. MLB Live Before Lock with Josh and Eric. That's a fun duo. That's it. Yeah. All right. Dontavian Wicks will be my pick here. I think he's a nice click in general to bail out a receiver room. Hard to get a guy who had a 30% target per out run at a decent sample size for free in a draft. I think people are really overrating what the rest of that receiving core is going to do. And I like Dobbs. I think Dobbs is locked into a role. I think Wicks is certainly playing for a rotational spot. But like Jaden Reed's going to play in the slot. Like that's all they did with him last year. He wasn't great doing that. Matthew Golden will play in the slot and out wide a little bit, but I don't think there's a guarantee he's going to be an every down guy. Wicks is the one who can move the sticks, make things work. So I'm Team Wicks. And thank you for Andrew here. Your draft was good. I agree. I think this is one of the better DraftKings drafts we've done here. Final team, let's give it a read. We got Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Omarion Hampton as our start here. Again, Hampton's the one I have the most question marks about just because the role is not guaranteed for him. Najee Harris is a very meaningful addition for that team, and ambiguous backfields, always something we want to try to get both sides of the bet on if we can. Jamar Chase, Lad McConkey here, part of that Chargers bet. Chris Olave, I think is a little bit underpriced. A good way to bail out at wide receiver 3 and hope he has that upside. Sam Laporta, Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy, Justin Herbert as our second QB. Could have had Tyler Shuck as a third one, but I didn't really feel it. Christian Kirk is our bring back for week 17 with that Charger stack. Rashad White trying to add some depth in the RB room. Certainly some contingent value if Bucky Irving were to go down. Quentin Johnston here, part of the Charger stack as well. Mike Gesicki, part of our Cincinnati stack. Nick Chubb, another Houston bring back. Michael Wilson in Arizona bring back for Cincinnati. Marshawn Lloyd. Am I giving him a kiss or are we doing chef's kiss? I think chef's kiss was the goal, but also kiss to you, Marshawn Lloyd. Theo Johnson, Keaton Mitchell, and Keaton Mitchell? Yeah, that's right, Keaton Mitchell. And Dontavian Wicks. Yeah, I think maybe didn't need the 7th RB. Could have added a 9th wide receiver on, even a 4th tight end. And it could have been logical, given Laporta's sometimes really obvious floor. But we got good value. I like this team. I think this team pops. So I am going to hop onto my Splash Play channel now, do another PPR draft, not on DraftKings, but on a different site. So if you want to get some different action in, come join me on there. Make sure to check out DraftKings. I'm going to drop the link to my YouTube channel as well if you want to come join me on here for the many best ball drafts I do. Make sure to check out DraftKings Daily Fantasy app right now. Download the app first and foremost and get in there. Play your 2 entries right away. Get 1 entry, put in your first $20 entry in a best ball lineup. You'll get yourself a shot at $50 million. Then you get a second entry for free. So 2 shots, $50 million for a situation where you only have to draft 1 team and never set your lineup again. So gone are the traditional rules of redraft. Hello, it's just shots of big money is really the goal in best ball. Have those big paydays in a way that you're not even getting the weekly DFS tournament. So check out DraftKings. Again, a great partner here for Stochastic doing these best ball drafts and also a great site for you to play on this year in particular. There's a lot of good bonuses to make it worth your time. Again, $300 total if you max out the tournament this year getting given back to you. So that's a pretty nice amount of rake back for a tournament where you have to spend a little bit of that money for sure. Nothing in the chats here. Appreciate all you guys hanging out though. Hit the like button, subscribe. I will see you guys again on Thursday at 3 p.m. here. I hope you guys are surviving as well with this very hot summer. It's really gross in the Philly area, so stay cool. Don't die of heat stroke. I don't know. What things do you say to people on a really disgustingly hot day? But I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck, and check out MLB Live Before Lock with Josh and Eric coming up in a few hours. All right, bye, guys.